Blog
Hello,
Talk Radio.
welcome to another episode of Lectures of Fallen Wisdom. Today I'm going to talk about acting angry. Sometimes anger is effective in getting what you want. Sometimes acting angry works. But the problem is it's always wrong to act angry. Now don't get me wrong, you're never going to be able to avoid acting angry. It'll happen from time to time. Anytime you're in a moment that you don't fully comprehend, you just, it's a pattern, it's a new pattern, it's confusing you, it might actually get you angry. And you might take that anger out on somebody in that pattern, somebody with you in that moment, and blame them for it. But that's the whole point of anger is stupid. Anger is stupidity. It's an outburst of stupidity that comes from getting angry. It's a form of confusion and fatigue, and when it hits you at the right moment, you can just blow up like a chemical reaction. And people have gotten things through anger, and it's worked for them, especially controlled anger. When you start to notice that it's really good, that you can get things, you can pretend that you're angry just to get certain effects. The problem is with each anger that you put out, you're putting a certain amount of poison that debilitates you into your body. You can't create anger without creating this poison that kills you. And you only have a certain amount of them left. That's the aging process, is essentially how many times have you gotten angry, is how old you are. So if you think about it like that, then you start to understand that it's really not a good idea, and you should do all you can never to be angry. And always try to get into the habit of not using anger as a tool. Because even controlled anger, just putting anger out into the world, whether it's fake, whether it causes anything that causes fear, all these things, they may be effective in the moment, and you get a certain charge off of them, off your instinctual ego. Your ego is a very anger-loving thing. And when it feels itself threatened, it gets a certain amount of power from acting angry. It's empowering. But the problem is, it's just a momentary thing. It's like all really shitty drugs. They give you a momentary awesome feeling, but the consequences are they're stealing that from you with poison. They're stealing your life force. They're draining it prematurely. All drugs that are intoxicating are doing that. And that's the problem with any kind of intoxicant, is you have a certain amount of life force, and if you concentrate it in a moment, it does take away from the other moments. You can only have so much inspiration. Now with certain intoxicants, like anger, like drugs, you create like a focus, and you get a crescendo of these emotions, and they can be empowering. The positive ones happen to be almost equally empowering as the negative ones. And that's where the danger comes. That's why the dark side is so attractive. Like, people are attracted to it because they want to be able to be that dark and get away with it. There's an element of like envy, that you see the devil. He's smiling in hell. He's happy. He's ruling. And he's bad. And we admire the devil for the fact that he doesn't care about being bad. So we admire other bad people, bad women, bad girls, or the bad boy or the bad girl. Now people want to be like a badass. I'm a badass. And what does that mean? That means that you're like a dick sometimes. It means you're a dick kind of a lot of the time. And you think like, oh, that makes me a badass. Well, you know what happens to fucking badasses? They become weak old men. All badasses become weak old men. So don't fancy yourself a badass. Get the word bad out of your fucking dictionary, out of your mind, okay? You you will get angry. Okay, this is not something you can avoid, but anytime it does happen, especially when it's effective and you get what you want. First of all, think about the harm that you caused, the fear that you invoked, the damage that you did outwardly. That's something to consider. The ripple effect of that anger. How it may have pushed somebody else over to an edge of another anger somewhere else and hurt somebody. Or how it pushed somebody to push another person, and then at the end of that chain, somebody's getting murdered. Because that's what's happening. Anytime you put any kind of anger, whether fake or real, out into the universe, it eventually will make its way to kill or hurt someone. If it didn't hurt the very person you gave it to in the first place, it hurt them too. That's the whole point of it, isn't it? It's a sadism. People who are angry are sadists. They like hurting other people. People who get angry strategically are like sociopath sadists. And look, you are a human being. You cannot avoid anger. But you should never let it be the normal reflex. And what happens is after a long period of maybe subtle forms of anger working and getting what you want, it does start to become a habit and a reflex. And the best way to fight against that reflex, if you see it start creeping in, and as you get older, you become very adept at doing this. Very adept. Just want to see if this mic is working. Hello. 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 Yes. So we have what we have here is we have a body that in the world will sometimes act angry. So when this happens, whether it's actually has a good outcome or a bad outcome, but especially if it's a good outcome. If it has a bad outcome, you're going to examine it. You're going to think about what you could have done better. But when it works, you should really scrutinize. Let's just say you got angry at some clerk at a store, and then they ended up giving you the refund they weren't going to give you, or something of that nature. The poisonous anger that you put into the room, it got you your money, your $35 or whatever. But it cost you so much more. And just knowing that, it's important to just focus on it and be like, how could I have gotten the $35? Or how could I have just rationalized not getting it and just been very nice about it? And have that be the $35 conversion. And I know that's a fucking big thing to think about, but it's important. Somebody owes you money, right? Let's just say you're trying to return something. You didn't even open the box, but they won't return it for some stupid-ass reason. It's like $40, $50. And you could get all huffy. You could be like, let me talk to the manager. You could get all just red in the face, and eventually, I think, just to get rid of you, they'll give you the refund, right? But it costs you so much more. It costs you creating ripples that might cause death or hurting animals, hurting just pain. Just you're releasing pain, and that pain does not stop at the person. Now, if that person is a Jesus Christ and that person takes it and doesn't give it back to anyone, then you're lucky. Jesus Christ blocked your pain and took it out of the world. And that's the kind of person you should be too. When pain comes your way, when anger comes your way, let it be the last place it goes. Sure, you're going to get angry. But let yourself be the last person to get angry over this force. because he got it from someone else, and someone else before him got it from someone else, and it just got transferred down the line to you. Let the buck stop with you. And that's the whole turn the other cheek philosophy on with Jesus. It's like, look, it's not about being a pushover. It's just to never transmit it. Let the buck stop with anger. Be done with you. Now the problem is, there is if you show any of the anger, even if you just show a little bit of it, you're still transmitting it, maybe at a much lower frequency. You've diffused a lot of it if your anger is very subdued. If you have a huge blow up, you can make it even worse. And that's what most people do when they transmit anger from one person to another. It just gets angrier and angrier until somebody gets shot down the line. So it's just look at it and see. You see that it caused all this problem, and then you see that it's actually like bad for your body. It's very hard to lose weight if you're just like getting angry all the time. It's very hard to stay in good shape and stay good looking if you're using anger as a tool. Okay, if you're a whore to anger, the lines in your face, people would just look at your face and think you're angry all the time. So when you get into a situation like the one I was talking about with the store, essentially you've paid $50 for people to have a front row seat to somebody who should be angry, who should think that it's ridiculous that they're not taking this back, but who instead is very nice about it and says, well, that's fine. I don't mind. I don't need to have the money back, but I don't need it. So I'm just going to leave it here with you. And I thank you very much. If you decide that you would like to pay me back, my number is right here. If not, that's fine. I hope you can sell it. I don't want to waste it. I don't like contributing. You don't have to have like a fake British accent, but I like to put one on if necessary, because it just gives me an air of sophistication. So I'll say, yes, don't worry. Don't even think about me. You don't need to call me. I just don't like waste. I just would rather not contribute to the landfill with something that's perfectly good with an unopened box. Just have a little performance. Be nice, though. Be cool as shit. Not like in a snide way. Not in an arrogant way. Just be very understanding. Like, relinquish the $50. I mean, it's $50 fucking dollars. I know money's tight and whatnot. But you can, what does that buy you? That buys you the ability to outshine the moment, which gets the notice of the fates. The fates are a very interesting God. The fates are, the things that choose your destiny. And the fates are there. They're watching. They're watching every move. It's just that they coexist with the move. And the fates are very sensitive to how you behave. If you behave uncharacteristically Jesus-like in certain moments, you open portals. You open places where you can actually make adjustments and go into different higher levels of reality. If you're never creating those by doing things extraordinary and doing things that capture the attention of these fates, they just kind of shuffle you along. They shuffle you along and just kind of steer you away from causing as much damage as you can. They consider you to be a sleepwalker. And the fates, they're somewhat kind to them, but for the most part, they're not. They just kind of treat them like cattle, and they have to. Sleepwalkers are not helping. The fates understand that. The fates would like nothing else for us all to just be immortal, and they can make it happen. But they need to see something a little more from us, so something a little more inspiring than the money grubbing, than the ego satisfying, than the porn watching, than the drug doing. Something big, something sparkling. And now, hey, when somebody owes you a lot of money, the best thing to do is say, "You're welcome." I mean, just be like, "It's fine, man. Like, keep it. Let them have it back. Let them fucking have it. Tell them it's fine. You bought that. Basically, you bought their audience to see you, and you bought the Fates audience. The Fates see that. Every time you do that, every time you let something go instead of getting angry, and in fact, do one better, turn the other cheek, give kindness back. And every time you re-examine something you did apply anger to, not only do you erase a lot of the poison that you created, not only do you begin to repair the ripple effect of pain which you initially started, you start to enter realms where you can wish things, where you have the power to just command reality. Why would they give the commands to somebody who didn't act that way? If you want to ask how this is true, how I know this. This is a lecture of fallen wisdom. This is wisdom that humans had, and they lost it somewhere. But it's all logic. Why would the Fates give any shit about somebody who's not doing exceptional things? Why would sorry, Fates, I didn't mean to call you shit, but why would Fates take notice of somebody just being an asshole when they're perfectly justified in being an asshole? Everybody's doing that. But what about the person who's being a saint when they're perfectly justified in being an asshole? That's the guy the Fates look at, and that's the guy they give a lot to. So anytime some anger works for you, first of all, find that person, try to repair. If you ever see the person again, apologize. Nothing was worth that. Forgiveness is important, but most of all, forgive yourself. You can't times. Now I'm going to let you in on a little secret, which I shouldn't tell you because it's probably going to affect you and you might get intoxicated with this power too. But when you're being super avoidant of being angry and you're trying to be cool all the time, in fact, you're oriented that way. You keep working on yourself so that you do react that way as much as possible. But in the rare moments that you do get angry, because you can't help it in certain instances, but you're still holding it back a little bit, that rare anger is so fucking powerful. It's like God-like anger. Why? Because God is like the ultimate good, right? So if God gets angry, he must really have a good reason. So you kind of, if you're just on guard as much as you possibly can, not exhibiting anger to anyone, any kind of anger that does come out of you will be extremely righteous and extremely effective. But it's still wrong. It still was the wrong move. It still bears examining how you could have gotten to the same result without anger. Now, you might have something that you're wishing would happen tomorrow. Something that you wish would happen tomorrow. And your wish can be granted provided you do something good today. And it doesn't matter if you did bad yesterday, because the good you do today outweighs every single bad thing you've ever done. Isn't that weird? The good you do today completely but if you don't do good today, it doesn't. Then the past is a problem. Do you see what I'm saying? your past anger and your angry outbursts, yeah, if you don't do good today, the fates will keep your wishes from your grasp. Why would they want to grant the wishes of an asshole? But if you're like super cool today, especially if you were an asshole before, like sometimes just the contrast, the fates take notice of that. You know, when Scrooge all of a sudden sees the three ghosts and all of a sudden he becomes this generous man. Even we, the audience, who is a stand-in for God in this sense, for the fates, we love him. We love him more than the guy who was good before when Scrooge was an asshole. Because the contrast, the move, the redemption from being a fucking total dick to being a super cool, chill motherfucker, that is what the fates love. But don't keep going back to being a dick so you can jump out to being cool anymore. Like, don't go Scrooge, and then come back like over and over. That's not cool either. Then you're schizo. You think about any moment that anger worked. Even the most righteous anger is wrong. And you think about it, and you just replay the situation. How could you have gotten the exact same goal that you got, or something even better? And what would that goal be, and how could you have gotten at it? Anger is an ancient response from a certain part of our brain that is no longer useful. In fact, it's starting to be counterproductive. But it does keep us. It's an important feature of dangerous situations. But let's face it, if your mind is oriented towards good and towards being good, you will face very few dangerous situations. Anger is, most people, when they get into accidents, it's because a surge of anger is actually like in their mind. They're not paying attention, and they just fucking crash against the wall. Don't be that motherfucking idiot. Looking at your stupid phone. When you're fucking driving, look at the road. Like, appreciate that you're driving. Like, forget about the fucking phone and who's texting you and all this bullshit. Make sure you're not angry, because that anger is the thing that makes you reach for all these devices, makes you get into the social media. You're trying to get some kind of dopamine hit from, oh, look, somebody checked out my picture. Like, oh, look, like somebody likes my song. Like, oh, look, my artwork is being looked at. It's like we crave that when we're in an angry state. And usually we're always a low-level angry about the fact that we're not getting where we need to go. We're not doing what we need to do. Maybe we're angry at ourselves for procrastinating. And that anger starts to boil up when somebody's annoying. All it takes is a little bit of a spark of annoyingness, and you might blow up. And it shuts people up, and you can control your environment that way, but it's always bad. And you know it is. You feel guilty afterward, unless you're a fucking asshole. But most people aren't. Most people aren't actually true assholes. They're trained assholes. They train themselves to be assholes. And you've probably done that too. So it's look, everybody has this problem. It's not unique to anyone. Most people have assholeitis. And it's just this tendency in certain situations to be a dick. And because it's effective. Not being a dick is always more effective. That's the thing to keep in mind. It's more effective, it's healthier, and the fates. Remember the fates. The fates can grant your wishes. But you have to be so good of a person. So think about like some good deeds that you could do today. Something that would really brighten somebody's day. Can you think of what it would be? Try to come up with something like that. If you're like ever bored and you don't know what to do something to make somebody happy. Somebody random. Don't go to the same person each time. But make somebody happy. Think about who needs your help, who could use a friend, who could use a talk. Sometimes people just need a talk, need to just hear from somebody and have a little bit of a dialogue, a rap. Pop in, man. Show your face. Be cool with it. Be in the fucking groove with it. Anyway, this is a really important one because I've always thought that maybe I could just be cool and never show anger. And I'm starting to understand that it's just not possible to completely rein in your anger. It's going to burst. And the problem that I've always had is that I'm good at it. So I can control my anger. I can be a little bit controlled with it and get things done, get people to do things, control my environment. But then I start to become a consummate asshole. And that just leads to old age. It leads to real skinny neck, shriveled skin, squinty eyes. All you want to do is jerk off when you're angry. And guess what? It's really hard to get laid if you're angry. You'll never get laid, actually, if you're angry. You got to get happy. That's the main source of erectile dysfunction, is anger. And when we become a little bit effective with anger, we start to just keep a little burning ember all the time, just in case we need it. It's like fire. Humans never really cared about fire for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. But the minute they found it, just like anger, they've always wanted to keep a little part of it burning but fire makes sense because it cooks your food, it keeps you warm. Anger is just pure, unadulterated pollution in the body. So that's the lecture. I hope that it has some meaning for you. And we will talk again. This is Lectures of Fallen Wisdom.